The champagne glass slipped from my fingers and shattered against the marble floor of our Beverly Hills mansion. Not because I was clumsy, but because the words I'd just overheard through Derek's slightly open office door had frozen my entire body. Just 2 more years, baby. When she hits 60, that's when we make our move. The lawyers confirmed it. California law will work in our favor, especially if we can prove she's, losing it a bit. I stood there in the hallway, designer heels crunching on crystal shards, listening to my husband of 8 years discuss my future like I was already dead. My name is Margaret Richardson, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 58 years old, and I built a luxury boutique empire from nothing after my first husband passed away 12 years ago. 3 stores on Rodeo Drive, a flagship in Century City, and a net worth that would make most people's heads spin. I thought I'd found love again with Derek Castellanos, a charming man 13 years younger who swept me off my feet with his attention and apparent devotion. Standing there, listening to him plan my downfall, I realized how naive I'd been. Sophia, sweetheart, you just need to keep playing the part a little longer. The confused, grateful niece who adores her uncle's wife. Derek's voice was warm, intimate. Maggie already loves you like family. She'll never suspect you're the one I'm really planning my future with. My heart cracked. Sophia, his 28-year-old niece, who I'd welcomed into our home, paid for her medical school, treated like the daughter I never had besides Emma, the girl who called me Aunt Maggie and brought me flowers every Sunday. I feel terrible lying to her, Derek. She's been so good to me. Sophia's voice carried through the door, younger, uncertain. Don't go soft on me now. Do you want that clinic in Mexico or not? Once I get my hands on her money, we'll have everything we've dreamed of. She's already showing signs of forgetfulness. Yesterday she couldn't remember where she put her keys. Perfect timing. I pressed my hand against the wall, steadying myself. Those weren't signs of dementia. I'd been distracted, worried about the boutique's quarterly reports, stressed about Emma's divorce proceedings. Normal life concerns that Derek was apparently cataloging as ammunition against me. What if she finds out? What if Emma gets suspicious? Sophia asked. Emma's too busy with her own problems to notice anything. And even if she did, who's going to believe that sweet, innocent Sophia is anything but what she appears to be? We've been so careful. No one suspects we've been together for 3 years. 3 years. While I was paying for Sophia's tuition, celebrating her birthday, introducing her to my friends as my beloved niece-in-law, she was sleeping with my husband, planning to steal my life's work. Just remember, Derek continued, confused behavior, subtle signs of mental decline, document everything. My lawyer says if we can establish a pattern of diminished capacity, the prenup might not even hold up in court, especially if her own husband is the one presenting the evidence. The prenup. Harold Pemberton, my family attorney, had insisted on it before Derek and I married. Derek had signed it without reading it carefully, claiming he was hurt that I didn't trust him completely. Now I understood why he'd been so interested in its contents lately. I backed away from the door slowly, my mind racing. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of sharing my bed, my table, my life with a man who saw me as nothing more than a bank account with an expiration date. 8 years of loving someone who was counting down the days until I'd be old enough to appear vulnerable in court. The worst part? I'd been so proud of Derek's transformation. When we met, he was my personal trainer, struggling to make ends meet. I'd watched him evolve from a man who counted every dollar to someone who seemed to genuinely care about building a life together. I'd supported his business ventures, introduced him to my social circle, made him a part of my world. All of it had been a performance. A long, elaborate con with me as the mark. I walked to the living room on unsteady legs, my reflection catching in the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. At 58, I'd maintained my figure, my elegance, my sharp mind. But in Derek's eyes, I was already becoming an inconvenience. A problem to be solved. The house felt different now. Every corner held memories that were suddenly tainted. The kitchen where Derek made me coffee every morning. Had he been calculating how many more mornings he'd have to pretend? The bedroom where he held me close. Was he thinking about Sophia the entire time? I sank into the white leather sofa, The same one where Sophia and I had spent hours talking about her future, her dreams, her gratitude for the opportunities I'd given her. She'd been so convincing, so genuine in her affection. Or maybe I'd just been desperate to believe that someone besides Emma could love me for who I was, not what I had. But I wasn't going to crumble. I'd survived losing my first husband, built a business empire, raised a daughter as a single mother. I'd survived worse than a gold digger and his accomplice. Derek thought he was playing chess while I was playing checkers. He had no idea that I'd been the one playing the long game all along. The next few weeks were torture. Every kiss Derek gave me felt like a knife blade. Every time Sophia called me Aunt Maggie, I wanted to scream. But I forced myself to play the role they expected, the aging woman slowly losing her grip on reality. I started leaving my keys in obvious places, then acting confused when I couldn't find them. I'd pause mid-sentence during conversations, looking lost. I even forgot Emma's birthday, something that devastated me to do. But my daughter understood when I explained later. Derek's reaction was telling. Instead of concern, I saw satisfaction flash across his face. He'd started documenting these incidents, just as I'd overheard him planning, taking photos of my keys on the kitchen counter, making notes on his phone when I'd pause during conversations. "Maybe you should see Dr. Henderson," he suggested one evening over dinner, his voice dripping with false concern. "These little episodes are happening more frequently." "I'm fine, Derek. Just tired." I picked at my salmon, watching him study my every move. "You're not fine, sweetheart. Yesterday you asked me twice if I'd picked up your dry cleaning, and last week you couldn't remember our anniversary dinner reservation." I had remembered. I'd simply wanted to see if he'd take the bait. He had. "Maybe Derek's right, Aunt Maggie," Sophia chimed in from across the table. She'd been joining us for dinner more frequently, Derek's excuse being that she was struggling financially. "My neurology professor says early intervention is key in these cases." The casual way she mentioned her neurology professor made my stomach turn. Was she learning about dementia symptoms to better help Derek build his case against me? "I don't need a doctor," I said firmly, then immediately softened my tone. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to snap. I'm scared." Derek reached across the table and took my hand. "I know, baby. But I'm here for you. We'll get through this together." The lies came so easily to him. I wondered if he'd ever told me the truth about anything. That night, I lay in bed listening to Derek's breathing, knowing he was probably thinking about Sophia, about their future clinic in Mexico, about the money he thought he'd inherit. I'd pretended to take a sleeping pill, but I was wide awake, planning. I needed help. Real help. Someone I could trust completely. The next morning, I called Vivian Torres, my best friend since college, and one of the most successful private investigators in Los Angeles. We'd stayed close through the years, and she'd always been protective of me, especially after my first husband died. "Viv, I need to see you, privately. It's about Derek." "I'll be right over." Vivian arrived within an hour, her sharp eyes taking in my appearance immediately. "You look terrible, Maggie. What's going on?" I told her everything. The overheard conversation, the fake symptoms, the 3-year affair with Sophia. Vivian's expression grew darker with each detail. "That son of a—" She caught herself. "I never trusted him. Too smooth. Too perfect. Men like that always have an angle. I need proof. Real proof. Not just my word against his. Consider it done. But Maggie, are you sure you want to go down this road? Once we start digging, there's no going back." I thought about the 8 years I'd given Derek. The trust, the love, the shared dreams, the way he'd held me when I'd cried about missing my first husband, the way he'd promised to protect me always. I'm sure. Within days, Vivian had a plan. She'd plant listening devices in Derek's office, track his movements, monitor his communications. She'd also investigate Sophia more thoroughly. Something about the girl's story had never quite added up. The first recordings were devastating. Derek wasn't just planning to leave me. He was actively working to destroy my mental health to make his case stronger. He'd been researching medications that could cause confusion, ways to isolate me from Emma, strategies to make me appear incompetent to run my businesses. The beauty of it, I heard him tell Sophia during one of their phone calls, is that she's doing half the work for us. These little memory lapses are perfect. By the time we're ready to move, even her own daughter will think she needs professional care. But the most heartbreaking recording came 3 weeks into the investigation. Derek and Sophia were at a restaurant in West Hollywood, celebrating what they thought was their successful deception. "I actually feel sorry for her sometimes," Sophia said. "She's been so kind to me. The way she lit up when I told her I wanted to go to medical school." "Don't." Derek's voice was sharp. "Don't start sympathizing with her now. She's had her time. 58 years of living better than most people could dream of. It's our turn now." "But the way she looks at me, like I'm her daughter." "You're not her daughter. You're mine. And in less than 2 years, we'll have everything we need to disappear and start fresh. The clinic, the life in Mexico, freedom from all this pretense. What if she fights the divorce? What if she doesn't just accept the mental health diagnosis?" Derek's laugh was cold. "She won't have a choice. I've been documenting everything. Her confusion, her forgetfulness, her emotional instability. I even have video of her wandering around the house at night looking lost. By the time I'm done, everyone will believe she's not competent to handle her own affairs." The video he mentioned was from a night when I'd been unable to sleep, worried about Emma's custody battle. I'd been pacing, thinking, planning how to help my daughter. Derek had filmed me without my knowledge, turning a mother's concern into evidence of mental decline. That's when I realized the true scope of his cruelty. This wasn't just about money. This was about destroying me completely, making me question my own sanity, isolating me from everyone I loved. He wanted to take not just my wealth, but my dignity, my sense of self. But Derek had made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me. I'd built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing. I'd navigated the cutthroat world of high-end retail, survived hostile takeovers, outmaneuvered competitors who'd tried to crush me. I'd raised a daughter who became a successful attorney, maintained friendships that had lasted decades, earned respect in one of the most competitive cities in the world. Did he really think I'd go down without a fight? The recordings revealed one more crucial piece of information. Derek had been meeting with multiple divorce attorneys, shopping for one who would be aggressive enough to pursue the angle he wanted. He'd found one. A man named Marcus Webb who specialized in cases involving mental competency. "She'll never see it coming," Derek had told Webb during their consultation. "By the time we file, she'll be so confused she won't even understand what's happening." But I wasn't confused. I was angry. And I was ready to show Derek exactly what happened when you tried to outsmart Margaret Richardson. The hardest part wasn't discovering the betrayal. It was pretending I didn't know. Every morning I had to wake up next to Derek and act like the confused, aging woman he expected me to be. Every dinner with Sophia required me to smile and chat about her studies while knowing she was planning to destroy my life. But I had advantages Derek didn't know about. 30 years of friendship with Harold Pemberton, who'd handled every major decision in my life since my first husband died. A daughter who'd inherited my steel spine and sharp mind. And most importantly, Vivian's investigation was revealing cracks in Derek's perfect plan. "There's something wrong with the Sophia story," Vivian told me during one of our secret meetings at her downtown office. "I've been digging into her background, and half of it doesn't add up." "What do you mean?" "For starters, there's no record of Derek having a niece named Sofia Castellanos. His sister Maria lives in Phoenix and has 2 sons, no daughters. His brother Carlos is single and lives in San Diego. So where did this girl come from?" My blood chilled. "Are you saying she's not even related to him?" "I'm saying I can't find any family connection. But I did find something interesting." Vivian pulled out a file. "Sofia Martinez, not Castellanos, graduated from UCLA with a theater degree 3 years ago. She's been working as a freelance actress, mostly small roles and commercial work." The pieces clicked into place. "She's an actress. He hired her to play his niece. That's what I think. And if I'm right, we can use this. But first, I need to confirm something." Vivian's expression was serious. "I found the real Sofia Castellanos, Derek's actual niece. She's 26, lives in Mexico City, and works as a dental hygienist. She's never been to California." The depth of Derek's deception was staggering. He hadn't just cheated on me. He'd created an entire fictional relationship, complete with a fake family member. The woman I'd grown to love like a daughter didn't even exist. "I need to speak with Harold," I said. "It's time to update my will." That afternoon, I sat in Harold's Century City office, the same mahogany-paneled room where he'd helped me navigate my first husband's estate. Harold had been my father's lawyer before becoming mine, and he'd watched me transform from a grieving widow into a successful businesswoman. "Maggie, what Derek is planning is unconscionable," Harold said after I'd filled him in on everything. "But I'm not entirely surprised. I never liked that prenup negotiation. He pushed too hard for certain clauses." "What kind of clauses?" "Provisions that would kick in if you were declared mentally incompetent. At the time, I thought it was standard stuff. But now—" Harold shook his head. He was planning this from the beginning. The betrayal cut even deeper. Derek had been plotting against me since before we were married. Every tender moment, every shared laugh, every time he'd held me close, it had all been part of his long game. "I want to change my will," I said. "Everything goes to Emma and the foundation I'm establishing. Derek gets nothing. The prenup already protects you there, especially given the infidelity. But Maggie, are you sure you want to go nuclear? There might be a way to handle this more quietly." I thought about the recordings, about Derek's cold laughter when discussing my supposed mental decline, about the way he'd documented my every confused moment like evidence against me. He wanted to destroy me quietly, Harold. Turn me into a shell of myself and take everything I've worked for. I'm not going quietly. Over the next few weeks, I worked with Harold to restructure my entire estate. The boutiques would go to Emma, with provisions for the loyal employees who'd helped build the business. The real estate portfolio would fund the Margaret Richardson Foundation for Women's Empowerment. Derek would receive exactly what he'd brought to the marriage. Nothing. But I wasn't done. I needed Derek to reveal himself completely, to show everyone who he really was. And I had an idea for how to make that happen. "Vivian, I need you to contact the real Sofia Castellanos in Mexico City. I want to fly her here quietly, and I need you to arrange something else, a meeting with the fake Sofia. But she can't know we're onto her. What are you planning?" "Derek thinks he's been so clever, playing me for 8 years, but he's about to learn that I've been playing a much longer game." The real Sofia Castellanos was a sweet, genuine young woman who was shocked to learn about her uncle's deception. She agreed to come to Los Angeles, curious about the man she'd only met a few times at family gatherings. Meanwhile, I arranged to meet with the fake Sofia for lunch at our usual spot in Beverly Hills. I'd been careful to play my part perfectly, the confused, aging woman who was slowly losing her grip on reality. "Sofia, sweetheart," I said as we sat down, "I wanted to talk to you about something important. I've been thinking about updating my will, and I want to make sure you're taken care of." Her eyes lit up, not with genuine affection, but with the calculating look I'd learned to recognize. "Aunt Maggie, you don't need to worry about me. I'm just grateful for everything you've already done. But I want to. You're like the daughter I never had besides Emma. I've been thinking about leaving you the house in Malibu." It was a lie, but I watched her face carefully. The mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw raw greed flash across her features. That's incredibly generous. But are you sure? What about Emma? Emma has her own life, her own career. But you've been such a comfort to me during these difficult times. Derek says I've been having more episodes lately. He's just concerned about you. We both are. The concern was as fake as her identity. But I played along, letting her think she was successfully manipulating a confused old woman. That evening, I sat Derek down for a serious conversation. "I've been thinking about what you said about seeing a doctor," I began. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I should have some tests done." Derek's face lit up with what he thought was victory. "That's wonderful, honey. I'll make the appointments. And Derek, I want to do something special for our anniversary next month. A big party. All our friends. I know I haven't been myself lately, but I want to celebrate us. Celebrate our life together. Are you sure you're up for that?" "I need this, Derek. I need to feel normal again, surrounded by people who love us." He agreed enthusiastically, probably seeing it as the perfect opportunity to show everyone my deteriorating mental state. What he didn't know was that I was planning to give our guests a very different kind of show, The trap was set. Derek thought he was weeks away from implementing his final plan. Instead, he was about to walk into mine. The anniversary party was set for a Saturday evening in early August. I'd invited everyone who mattered, our social circle, business associates, Emma and her friends, even some of Derek's old clients from his personal training days. The house was transformed into an elegant showcase, with flowers from the best florists in Beverly Hills and catering from Derek's favorite French restaurant. Derek was in his element, playing the devoted husband concerned about his wife's declining health. I watched him work the room, accepting sympathy and praise for his dedication to me. Several guests commented on how lucky I was to have such a caring younger husband. "She's been struggling lately," I overheard him tell Mrs. Hartwell from the country club. "Memory issues, confusion. It's been heartbreaking to watch." The fake Sophia played her part perfectly too, the loving niece who was helping her uncle care for his ailing wife. She'd even brought me a beautiful bouquet, making a show of her affection in front of everyone. Emma stood beside me, elegant in a black cocktail dress, her lawyer's instincts on high alert. She'd been skeptical of my plan, worried about the emotional toll, but she understood the necessity. "Are you ready for this, Mom?" she whispered. "I've been ready for months." At 8 o'clock, I moved to the center of the living room and gently tapped my champagne glass for attention. The conversations died down as everyone turned to look at me. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began, my voice clear and strong. "Derek and I have been married for 8 wonderful years, and I wanted to celebrate with the people who mean the most to us." Derek smiled broadly, raising his glass. He had no idea what was coming. "Marriage is about trust," I continued. "It's about building a life together, sharing dreams, supporting each other through difficult times. It's about honesty." I paused, letting the word hang in the air. "Which is why I'm so grateful that technology has made it possible for us to stay connected with family, even when they're far away. Tonight, I want to introduce you to someone very special." I nodded to Vivian, who was standing by the large television screen. The screen flickered to life, showing a video call connection. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Sofia Castellanos, Derek's real niece." The room went silent. On the screen, a young woman with dark hair and kind eyes smiled and waved. "Hello, everyone. I'm calling from Mexico City. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I wanted to congratulate my Uncle Derek on his anniversary." I watched Derek's face drain of color. Beside him, the fake Sophia looked like she was about to faint. "Sophia," I addressed the screen. "You've never met your uncle's wife before, have you?" "No, unfortunately not. I've only seen Uncle Derek a few times at family gatherings. I was surprised when his friend contacted me about the party. I didn't even know he'd gotten married." The fake Sophia tried to slip toward the door, but Vivian and 2 of her associates were blocking the exits. "How interesting," I continued, turning to face the room. "Because we have another Sophia here tonight. The woman who's been living in my home, eating at my table, accepting my generosity, and calling me Aunt Maggie for the past 3 years." The silence was deafening. I could see the shock on my guests' faces as they began to understand what was happening. "Would you like to know the most remarkable thing?" I asked, my voice steady despite the anger burning in my chest. "This Sophia, the fake one, has been sleeping with my husband for 3 years while planning to help him steal my fortune." Derek finally found his voice. "Maggie, you're confused. You're having another episode." "Am I?" I smiled. "Harold, would you please read the section from the recording we discussed?" Harold Pemberton stepped forward with a digital tablet. Derek's own voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. "Just 2 more years, baby. When she hits 60, that's when we make our move. The lawyers confirmed it. California law will work in our favor, especially if we can prove she's, losing it a bit." The gasps from our guests were audible. Derek's face went white, then red, then white again. "There's more," I continued. "Hours of recordings, actually. Derek discussing how to make me appear mentally incompetent, planning to take my businesses, my home, everything I've worked for. And his accomplice here, documenting my every confused moment. Moments I was performing for their benefit." I turned to the fake Sophia, who was pressed against the wall, tears streaming down her face. "What's your real name?" I asked gently. Sophia Martinez, she whispered. And you're an actress. She nodded, unable to speak. How long have you been working with Derek? 3 years. He hired me to play his niece. He said you were lonely, that you needed family around you. He said it was harmless. And the plan to steal my money? Was that harmless too? Derek stepped forward, his charm finally cracking. Maggie, let's discuss this privately. You're embarrassing yourself in front of our friends. Our friends? I laughed. Derek, these people are about to watch you get exactly what you deserve. I nodded to Harold again. The prenup Derek signed 8 years ago contains a very specific clause about adultery. In the event of infidelity, the unfaithful spouse forfeits any claim to marital assets. Derek, you're not just getting divorced, you're getting nothing. The room erupted in murmurs. Some guests were already heading for the door, clearly uncomfortable with the drama unfolding. But wait, I continued. There's more. Derek, did you know that conspiracy to commit fraud is a felony in California? Especially when it involves the elderly? Harold has already been in contact with the district attorney's office. Derek's composure completely shattered. You can't prove anything. It's your word against mine. Actually, it's your word against your word. Vivian has been recording you for months. We have evidence of your affair, your plan to have me declared mentally incompetent, your research into my finances, your meetings with divorce attorneys. We even have video of you documenting my supposed episodes. I turned to Sophia Martinez. As for you, young lady, you have 2 choices. You can cooperate with the authorities and testify against Derek, or you can face charges as his co-conspirator. What's it going to be? She looked at Derek, then back at me. I'll cooperate. I never wanted to hurt you. He said you'd never find out. Derek made a desperate play. Maggie, please. I love you. This is all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I walked closer to him. You documented my every confused moment. You researched dementia symptoms. You planned to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my life's work. Which part of that is a misunderstanding? The fight went out of him. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. The beautiful irony, I said to the remaining guests, is that Derek thought he was playing the long game. 8 years of marriage, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But he never realized I was playing a longer game. I've been protecting my assets, my business, my family since long before I met him. Emma stepped forward and put her arm around me. Mom, I think it's time for our guests to leave. As people filed out, many stopped to offer their support. Mrs. Hartwell, who'd been expressing sympathy for Derek's situation just an hour earlier, squeezed my hand. I always knew you were stronger than you appeared, dear. Good for you. Within an hour, the house was empty, except for Emma, Harold, Vivian, and the 2 security guards who were ensuring Derek didn't try to remove any property. What happens now? Emma asked. Now, I said. Derek learns what happens when you try to destroy Margaret Richardson. 3 months later, I sat in my newly redecorated living room, sipping coffee from my favorite china cup and reading the morning paper. The house felt different now. Lighter, cleaner, like a weight had been lifted from every room. Derek was gone, of course. The divorce had been finalized within weeks, thanks to the ironclad prenup and overwhelming evidence of his deception. He'd received exactly what he'd brought to the marriage, nothing, and was now facing fraud charges that would likely result in jail time. Sophia Martinez had kept her word and testified against him. In exchange for her cooperation, she'd received probation and community service. She'd also written me a letter, apologizing for her role in the deception and explaining how Derek had manipulated her into believing the plan was harmless. I'd chosen not to press charges against her. She was young, struggling, and had been taken advantage of by a master manipulator. Instead, I'd done something that surprised everyone, including myself. I'd paid for her to attend a legitimate acting program in New York, far from Derek's influence. She'd been genuinely talented, just morally confused. A fresh start seemed like the right punishment. The real Sofia Castellanos had visited twice since the party, and we'd developed a genuine friendship. She was nothing like the woman who'd pretended to be her, but she was kind, funny, and reminded me that not everyone who entered my life had ulterior motives. Emma had moved back into the house temporarily while her own divorce was finalized. Having her there had been a comfort, a reminder that real family relationships were built on love and trust, not deception and greed. "Mom, you made the news again," Emma said, walking into the living room with her tablet. "Beverly Hills Weekly wants to do a feature on the foundation." The Margaret Richardson Foundation for Women's Empowerment had launched 2 weeks after the party. Its mission was to help women over 50 who were facing financial abuse or manipulation. The initial donation of $5 million had generated significant media attention, but more importantly, it had already helped dozens of women escape situations similar to mine. "I'm thinking about writing a book," I told Emma. "About the experience, about learning to trust your instincts, about fighting back when someone tries to diminish you." "That's a great idea. You could help a lot of women." I nodded, looking out at the garden where Derek used to like to entertain his friends. I'd had it completely redesigned, removing all traces of his influence. The new design was cleaner, more elegant, more me. The doorbell rang, and Emma went to answer it. She returned with Vivian, who was carrying a bottle of champagne and a manila envelope. "Good news or bad news?" I asked. "Good news. Derek's sentencing hearing is next week. His lawyer is recommending he plead guilty to avoid a trial. He's looking at 2 to 4 years. I felt a moment of satisfaction, followed by something unexpected. Pity. Derek had thrown away 8 years of a genuinely good life for a scheme that was doomed from the start. If he'd simply been honest, if he'd truly loved me, we could have had a real partnership. "And the other news?" I asked, nodding toward the envelope. "The private investigator I hired in Mexico found something interesting about Derek's past. He's done this before, twice. Older women, both wealthy, both divorced after he'd gained their trust and access to their finances. He's a career gold digger. Worse, he's a predator who specifically targets successful women in their 50s and 60s. You're lucky you figured it out when you did." I thought about the night I'd overheard his conversation, the moment my world had shifted. If I'd gone to bed earlier, if I hadn't dropped that champagne glass, if I'd been less curious about his late-night phone calls, "I wasn't lucky," I said finally. "I was careful. I've been protecting myself for years without even realizing it. The prenup, the business structures, the relationships I'd built. Derek thought he was hunting easy prey, but I was never as vulnerable as he believed." We opened the champagne and toasted to new beginnings. As the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, I felt genuinely happy for the first time in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Harold. "Judge approved the final settlement. Derek gets his personal belongings and nothing else. Congratulations, you're officially free." Free. It was the perfect word. Free from deception, free from manipulation, free from someone who'd seen my age as weakness instead of wisdom. That evening, I stood on my balcony overlooking Beverly Hills, the city lights twinkling below. I was 58 years old, wealthy, successful, and finally surrounded only by people who loved me for who I was. Derek had thought my age would make me vulnerable. Instead, it had made me powerful. I'd had decades to build networks, accumulate resources, develop instincts. I'd survived losing my first husband, built a business empire, raised a brilliant daughter, and now I'd outmaneuvered a man who'd spent 8 years planning my downfall. The foundation was already receiving applications from women across the country. My boutiques were thriving under Emma's fresh perspective. And I was writing again, something I hadn't done since college. I raised my glass to the night sky, to the future, to the woman I'd become. "Here's to playing the long game," I said softly, "and winning." Some people might say I was cruel in my revenge, that I should have confronted Derek privately, given him a chance to explain. But those people had never been systematically manipulated by someone they loved. They'd never had their reality questioned, their mental health used as a weapon against them. Derek had planned to destroy me slowly, methodically, lovingly. He'd wanted to take not just my money, but my dignity, my sense of self, my relationships with people I cared about. Instead, he'd awakened something in me I'd forgotten I possessed. The steel core that had built my business, survived my first husband's death, and raised a daughter who could stand up to anyone. I was Margaret Richardson. I was 58 years old, and I was just getting started.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.